In today's video, we're going to create an art journal page layout using a single shape very effectively in our work. We'll build up lots of layers, use just a few colors, and some household items to make interesting texture to add to these layers. So let's get started. So for this technique, I'm using my art journal here that I already started, and I'll link to that below, where on some of the pages I have some collage and some marks made with either ink or paint. So now I'm just going to open to any page that I want. It doesn't really matter. In this case, I like to have a page with something on it as opposed to one of these blank pages. So I'll just use this page here. I'm going to open it up, and I like to put some wax paper behind the pages. Just a couple sheets here and there, and this kind of protects the pages around it. If it gets a little messy, I'm not going to fret about that. And then I'll just clip it on one side. So I want to use shapes. Now I have some colors here, not too many. I have a white, a black, and a gray, and then a pink, a blue, and a yellow. Very light colors. I'm going to set this to the side. I have a few paintbrushes, a large 1-inch flat brush to color lots of area, some detail brushes, and a smaller brush. And I also have a sponge. I dampened it just so that it's easy to move around. I'm going to use this as well. Now you can use a circle template or a pencil. I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to use this little cup because I can dip it in my paint to get the ring and then press it into my book to get a circle. So to start with, I just want to add some color in some areas on the background. Now I want to work with very light colors. So I'm going to take the white here and just mix in just a tiny bit of the pink, just to get a small variation in the color. And I'm just going to spread that around some areas. I'm covering over part of the area I've already painted on, and then some more. Add just a little more white to that, and just paint until I'm happy. I like to go off the page as well. And since this is a 2-page layout, I want to add a little bit of color to the other side. So now the paint's not quite dry. I'm just going to take a wet baby wipe and just kind of blend out the edges. It just kind of gives me a diffused edge. The acrylic paint dries pretty quickly. I don't have very much on my tissue here, but it's just a softness. That's what I'm going for. I'm going to clean my brush somewhat, and then I'm going to take 2 more colors and do the same thing with the background. I'll do a light gray and a light yellow. So now I've blended the areas out, and I want to let this dry and have a nice layer. It's very subtle. I can still see some of the background coming through, and because I use that baby wipe, I remove some of the color. It gives a very interesting effect, very chalk-like. So now that that's dry, I want to start placing my circles. I'm using circles as the shape. You can use any shape you like, squares, diamonds, abstract shapes. I'm just going to take my cup here and I'm going to dip it all the way around the edge here. I'll start with the pink. You could mix a different color if you don't want it straight on. And I'm just going to place 3 of these circles. Now from here, I'm going to just take my brush, kind of blend it out. So I have that circle intact in the center, and then it just kind of radiates. Now because I blended it out, it kind of looks like a splatter. So now I'm going to continue doing that with other colors, but because I have 3 here, I'm just going to use 1 circle with the other colors. So now from here, see what you have and what you're feeling. This is a beautiful space. This would be a nice place to put a quote. I want to do something else with that space. I'm going to take my colors. Again, I'm going to go with some of this black mixed with the gray, and I'm going to make a very abstract shape around these circles. So I start with my color, and then I'll just paint it kind of where I want it. I like those lines. Now I'll take that baby wipe again and just kind of blend out the edges. I like that soft edge. Get a feel for what you like, and you can change this around. Now I want to make sure that this is dry. And while I like those soft edges, I want to add a little more lightness. I like this little smoke area here, but I still think it needs a little bit of lightening up. So I'll just mix and play with the colors. And this is what art journaling is about. You just go for what you have a feel for. So I'll just add a little lightness here and there. And then I'll come in with some of the other colors as well. That blue and even a little pink. Still maintaining that shape, that round shape that I like, but really helping this to blend out. Eliminating some of that darkness. So now that I'm happy with having a little more lightness, I'm not completely done, but mostly done. At this point, I want to really emphasize these circles. So I'll come back to my cup, and I'm just going to dip it in the white this time. That'll be a nice contrast. So I dip it all around the rim, and now I'll just press it around all of those circles again. And I'm not going to spread those out at this point. I'm going to let those dry just like that. I'm also going to take that white and I'm going to work some more with the white to lighten it up. So now I'm going to take a smaller brush, but I'm going to use the tip here, and I'm going to dip it in, and I want to create movement here. So I'll start with a dot, and I know I want to carry it throughout this beautiful shape we made. And I also want there to be a cluster of the shapes. I don't want an even line. I want it to bellow out and come in. So I'll start here, creating that line. Again, just adding my dots. Doesn't have to be perfect. If I had used square or rectangle shapes, I'd probably make marks instead of dots, but you can always use the dots for contrast. So now I have a little bit of a serpentine shape, and I just really love that. I'm going to go back in, and in certain points, I'll make it nice and wide, and at certain points, I'll leave it narrow. And I'll show you how that looks when I'm done with all my little dots here. So now I have some circles, a little row of dots, and I want to just add a few colors to the dots as well. Just picking up those colors and echoing them again. So now that all the dots are dry, I want to finish up the page. I can use journaling inside these circles, repeating the shapes, but I'm going to skip that today, and I'm just going to repeat the colors and the patterns. So I'm going to take a brush, I'm going to go in with the black, just get a very thin line of black, and just kind of emphasize that circle. I'll take it slow, reintroduce paint to my brush, and go around the inside of all the circles, not trying to make it perfectly neat, just trying to create a little shadow inside of that white ring. So you could stop here, but I want to continue. I want to emphasize a little more of those dots. I really like those. I'm going to dip my brush in and just add some dots to one side of all of the circles. Kind of just weighing it down. Again, I'll keep it kind of organically shaped so it doesn't particularly follow the curve evenly. So when I'm happy with the way that looks, you can add as many or as few as you like. I'm going to take my sponge. I'm just going to dip it in the white, and I'm choosing the white because I want a light color. I'm going to press it off so I just have a little bit on my sponge, and I'm just going to add a little texture very subtly to the other side of all those circles. You can always add a little to the edge. So I'll let this layout dry, and then I'll sandwich in a piece of wax paper in between this layout, just until the paint cures, and this will prevent it from sticking together. So this is how you can use the same shape throughout your layout really effectively. I have different size circles, different perfections of the circles, and lots of layers of the paint. Just a few colors, but I'm really pleased with this result. You can always add text if you'd like, or continue adding more and more circles, or whatever shape you prefer to use. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. And thank you for joining me today.